Hello, my name is Anshul, and today I want to talk to you about food waste. What is food waste? Food waste is any food that is grown but is not consumed and is wasted. But how big is this food waste problem in the United States? Now think about this. Food is too valuable to waste. Getting food to our tables in the US consumes 10% of the total energy budget. It takes up 50% of all US land. 80% of all the fresh water is consumed to grow and transfer food. But do you know that 40% of all the food that is produced in this country is not eaten and is wasted? Now that's just an average number, which is for all different types of foods like grains, meat, dairy. But something like fruits and vegetables, it is higher than 50%. That's more than half. So imagine if you have this apple that you like or any other fruit that you like, you eat half of it and throw the other half away. That's essentially what we're doing. Now it seems pretty impractical to throw this much good food away, but that's exactly what happens. But you might think it all happens in our homes, but that's not true. It happens along the way from production to its eventual consumption. We want you to understand how this waste is generated and what can be done to solve this problem. Not only are we spending our resources that we mentioned earlier that goes to waste, but imagine this, 1 in 6 Americans lack a secure supply of food to their tables. In fact, globally, half of the world's population may face a food shortage by the end of this century. So how do we minimize our food losses so more of that food that we are growing can be consumed? Now there are significant challenges that we will need to overcome to reduce our food waste. Fresh food sources, especially fruits and vegetables, can spoil at different stages of production, distribution, and consumption. Also, current quality standards mean a lot of the food has to be discarded, a lot of times due to cosmetic reasons like misshaped vegetables. Large portion of food waste comes from our households where food is spoiled in storage. There are significant challenges that we will need to overcome to reduce this food waste. Supply and demand factors, which are based on several things related to harvesting and transporting food that we'll talk about. Weather fluctuations impact food harvest quite a bit, and they're very unpredictable and very tough to forecast. Now think about this. Food is wasted at each of these following stages from production to consumption, starting with production, the farming itself. Then there's post-harvesting, handling and storage losses, processing and storage losses. Then you have to distribute it, so there's losses in distribution and retail. And finally, consumer losses, which is in our homes. Losses during farming are highest for fruits and vegetables. That happens when fields are not harvested, and that's due to a variety of reasons. It is difficult to predict the demand of the market when farmers are planning how much to grow. Lower demand means lower prices. That may not justify investment in harvest. There are damages that could be caused by pests, diseases, weather. All of it is very unpredictable. There could be food safety scares. All of us remember the salmonella scare for tomatoes. There could be labor shortages. Sometimes you also selectively harvest based on other quality standards. Some of them are cosmetic, color, shape, size, something like that. Losses in post-harvest and packing are primarily due to culling. Culling is where they separate acceptable food from what's not acceptable. And it's based on a variety of appearance and quality criteria. A lot of them is cosmetic, size, color, weight, blemish levels, sugar content. Now, culling losses vary widely by the type of food item, but that can be really high. For example, in some instances, 75% of the cucumbers harvested are discarded before sale. Some of this off-grade product can be used in processed food, but those companies also require strict specifications. So a lot of this off-grade product go towards animal feed, but if not, they can get spoiled in storage if they're not sold quickly. Food is often processed and packaged before reaching consumers, and that also generates waste. Trimming, where both edible, something like potato skins or peel, or inedible portions such as like bones or pits and meat have to be removed. There could be overproduction, more than that's required. Sometimes even technical malfunction of the equipment that's processing the food can damage the product or even the package. Now there's another problem. Packaged or processed food has a sell-by date label. And we'll talk about that later, but that can cause a lot of confusion and more waste during consumption. Moving over to distribution retail, there are multiple reasons why food waste could be generated. There could be improper handling or inadequate refrigeration or storage. There's also rejected shipments by retailers. There's excessive food displays. We've all seen that in the grocery store. We have a lot of food on a display. Not all of that is sold, and that's just to attract customers. Products are also removed that have passed that sell-by date. Then there could be damage in packaging, or even leftover. Sometimes during holiday and promotional items, they buy a lot, and a lot of it is leftover. Now, moving over to consumer households, there are again several reasons. First of all is lack of awareness and abundance of food, because food is cheap right now. Then there's the big thing of confusion over label dates on food. What is sell by, use by? And there's not enough education, so that leads to us throwing away the food. Then there's spoilage due to improper storage. Sometimes we also buy more than we need on an impulse. We don't plan properly sometimes on how much we need. There could also be over preparation. We cook too much, and all that goes to waste. So let's recap what we know. Food waste is a very significant problem in the US. There are multiple reasons why food is wasted, and it happens at different stages of the supply chain, from production all the way to consumption. Now think about what are some steps that should be taken to effectively reduce our food waste. What are the things that you can personally do at home or in the community that could reduce our food waste? There are several potential solutions to reduce food waste at each of those stages we just talked about. Starting with harvesting. We could have better mathematical models to predict the food demand, so crop quantities can be planned more accurately. There could be advances in engineering equipment that's used for harvesting to reduce the cost. The government could give tax breaks to farmers for donated food to help them offset the cost of harvesting. Moving on to processing. We could re-engineer processes to use more of the food material to generate lower waste, like better peeling machines for potatoes, or even extracting more ingredients from orange peel. Now there's a need to find product and process solutions for food with cosmetic defects or edible trimmings. Do you know baby carrots? Baby carrots were made from irregular carrots. That was somebody's idea. Distribution. We need proper equipment and training for handling and storage. We may need new infrastructure such as online systems to sell or donate rejected shipments. Moving on to retail. They may have better systems to manage and replenish inventory. Designing displays that look full but with less merchandise, so not all of it goes to waste. Also increasing flexibility on contract and grading standards, so more of the food could be accepted. Offering lower cosmetic grade produce, maybe at a lower price, and of course more donations from the retail store. Moving on to our homes as consumers, we should be planning our meals a little bit better if we go out shopping for food. Education on food quality and expiration date can help a lot. We may even use freezing, and that could preserve food before it spoils. Sometimes just using leftovers or preparing smaller amounts will help. So how can we address this critical problem? What ideas do you have? What kind of education do you think people may need to implement some of these ideas? Science, engineering, economics? How do we make sure that everyone is contributing to reducing our food waste? We may need education. We may need awareness. What about price of food? Do these give you any ideas on what you can do to reduce this food waste problem? Hopefully, what you have heard today has made you more aware of the growing food waste problem in this country and all around the world. And you agree that we urgently need to address this issue to ensure we are not wasting valuable resources and have steps in place for the future when food may become more scarce. Now, as a food engineer in a global company like PepsiCo, we care about the planet, energy conservation, and making our world a better place to live and thrive in. The idea of reducing waste is part of how we design our manufacturing plants, our processes, including energy, food, and water used in our manufacturing plants. We should also look beyond this country and think about the rest of the world. With the growing population, many countries are already facing food shortages. As someone who grew up in India, where a large part of the population does not have access to healthy nutrition, I'm very passionate about food waste and doing everything I can do to minimize it. Hopefully, you've learned something new and interesting today, something that affects all of us and will continue to do so in the future as people work towards finding different solutions that solve the problem of food waste and help secure food supply for the population. I will ask you to think about what kind of skills it will require for someone to work in the areas that we talked about today. There's economics, there's food engineering, there's food science, agricultural engineering, business. If these ideas interest you, consider if you have a passion for any of these professional fields and whether you will like to pursue them in your career. Let me tell you a little bit about myself and how I ended up being a food engineer. I always had a passion for engineering. I loved mathematics and solving problems. So I chose chemical engineering as a career for that reason. It has a ton of math. I got introduced to the field of food engineering, which is very close to chemical engineering, and was attracted to the creativity that comes with this field. We're always solving problems. We're always thinking of new snacks that people may like. So if you want to follow a path similar to mine and work in research and development in the food industry, some of the degrees you can pursue in college are food science, chemical engineering, or mechanical engineering. In high school, you will want to take chemistry, math, biology to be better prepared. Through this brief overview, you have learned how important the problem of food waste is to our society and some of the steps that all of us can take to do our part in making sure this problem is solved. There are things that you can start doing right away that can help. Hopefully, we have also inspired you to consider a career in some of the fields that we talked about or in food industry in general. There are plenty of opportunities that are both fun and creative and make a difference in people's lives. So think about these questions. What's the one thing that you will do differently after viewing this video? What's the one project that you can do to reduce food waste at home or in your community?